hear that? Hi, it's Todd from Todd's Workshop here, and I'm back with Arrows vs Armour 2, and we are going to be shooting this knight here. It might look like ordinary armour, it really isn't. It's been so carefully made by Augusto, our armourer. It's going to get carefully shot by Joe, our archer, with the arrows that Will, our Fletcher, has made, and all of this is going to get interpreted by myself and our arms and armour historian, Toby Capwell. It's been 3 years in the planning, and I cannot tell you how excited I am for this day. We're all so excited to see it getting shot. But before we do that, we've got to find out a little bit more about the armour and the equipment we're going to be using, because it's really important so you know, we all know, what it is that we're going to see. This is Arrows vs Armour 2. So of course there's been a 1, and in 1 we shot a breastplate. A really singular test. Do arrows go through? Do they not go through? So many questions were left hanging before, because a knight is much more than just a breastplate.
Yeah, and to investigate something as complicated as the battlefield environment in 1415, you gotta go from simple to complex. We started with one issue. Can an arrow penetrate the strongest frontal area of the armor? But that's not the whole story. There's a lot more going on. Now we can get a little more complex. You know, on the one hand, we're saying knights had great armor and great protection. And on the other side, we're saying, well, the longbow is a fantastic weapon. How can you be a fantastic weapon and have fantastic protection? You know, there's got to be something going on in the middle, and it's all about complexity.
Yeah. One thing that we really do know is that knights died at Agincourt, and this will allow us some insights into how that may have happened.
And that's why what we're doing, I think, is important, because this is allowing us to get into issues of the real physical world, the real human environment. What was it like? What did it feel like? What did it sound like? You cannot get close to this in the archives, my friends. You got to get out in the field, and that's what we're trying to do.
For me, the justification, if you like, of what we're doing here is really quite simple. The Kickstarter fundraising for the film allows us to buy the very best equipment, and we're going to shoot it with the best archer we can get and the best arrows we can get. And what happens is what happens. But whatever it is, it's something I didn't know yesterday. But by the end of today, I will know.
Okay, let's talk about the armor. I'm here with Augusto, our new armorer, who's made all these fabulous plates for us. Overall, I'm really happy with what this looks like. And it's kind of no surprise, because this is the period that you're really passionate about, isn't it?
It is. I've been studying for, I guess, at least a decade, like originals, weights of the originals, trying to find thicknesses, material composition, hardness, studying the art, just try to follow all the sources I could get.
So tell us a bit more about what specifically we have here. Why have we decided to make these the way they are? What are our sources for this?
Of course. The helmet is based on the Wallace Collection A69, which you might be familiar with.
I know it well. That was a good one to choose because we both have had hands-on access to it, and that particular helmet in the Wallace Collection has a chance of being a specifically French example. The part of the Wallace Collection helmet that doesn't survive is the original Aventail. And this was made by a friend of ours, wasn't it?
Yes, this was made by Isak Krog, based in Sweden.
Yep.
And the Aventail is a replica of Kerberg 15 Aventail.
Right.
So these are thicker, bigger rings of like very heavy-duty wire.
And Kerberg Castle in northern Italy is one of the most important surviving groups of 14th and early 15th century armor. So it's a really important reference point for everything we're building here, right? Including the breastplate.
The breastplate is based on Kerberg 14.
Which is one of the earliest surviving one-piece breastplates.
It is, absolutely. The arms as well, actually, from Kerberg Castle. This is based on Kerberg 10, but with a spin, because I have put a rotating upper cannon, which is a typical French feature of the time. And it will be very interesting to see what an arrow does when there's two independent layers of thin metal.
It's the layering principle again.
It is.
I guess we'll see.
They all have variable thicknesses, which usually means it's thicker in the front and thinner in the sides as per originals. The arms, for example, are 1 millimeters. The breastplate goes from 3.5 to 1, as does the skull and the visor.
Yeah,
So-
because 1 millimeter thick sounds worryingly thin.
but that is what most of the originals are.
Right, because you
Yes.
have to balance the weight versus the protection. You need thick plates where you're going to get hit the most, but it can't be thick everywhere or the armor's going to be too heavy.
Absolutely.
The whole thing can't end up being more than 25 or 30 kilos in total at the most. So you've got to make some hard choices about where you put the weight.
You do.
So what's the plate armor made out of?
This is all made of mild steel.
Modern mild steel, is that the best material to be using?
According to our own tests and to Alan Williams in his book The Night in the Blast Furnace, mild steel is a good representative for cross-laminated wrought iron.
Yeah, in the early 15th century, that's a particularly common material for plate armor.
It is. We do have steels, but a lot of the stuff was made of just like iron.
And that's an important point. Last time we had the same style of breastplate, but made in medium carbon steel. So it ended up representing a really high-end quality breastplate, not the average by any means. This one is much more typical of the masses of French knights who were on the field. Most of them were wearing something made out of a material more like this.
I think it is a pretty fair comparison, yes.
So the plates provide some really formidable protection in key areas, but looking at the whole figure, you can see that he's got vulnerabilities. The hard plates can't protect everything. And in 1415, we're still in a period when full plate exoskeletons are only just starting to appear. There's a substantial area below his waist. You know, his whole lower torso has no plate protection at all. This isn't us just getting lazy. This is how a lot of armor of this period was actually worn. And he's chosen to leave plates off his lower torso for the sake of being a bit lighter, being a bit more mobile, or just not having access to a plate skirt. Lots of people didn't. This is a characteristic feature of this period. Rapidly to change later, but we have to be strict about where we are in time. But one thing we really see here that it's not just about thickness. You've got some really extreme forms. The shape that the armor has gives it a lot of extra strength and protectiveness. Just looking this figure up and down, your head starts to spin a bit at the possibilities of what arrows might do when they hit this.
It will be really interesting to see what these very nasty arrows are gonna do. It will be painful, but it will be definitely worth it.
As with everything in the Arrows versus Armour films, we want to know that we're doing it right as best as we can guess, as best as we can estimate. So, Joe Gibbs, incredible archer, we know that, but you're shooting what, 160-pound bow today? Is anything different from the last time we did trials 3 years ago?
So it's the same bow, so a copy of the ones off the Mary Rose, which is the only data we have to go by. Slightly higher than mid-range, but in there definitely, self-view, 160 pounds. As for the target, it's slightly different, isn't it?
Has that changed in your head how you will approach shooting? Because before, you were just shooting at a breastplate.
I definitely have areas that I'm going to be looking at, especially these parts. An arrow in there,
Yeah.
he's done.
For me, that's looking really vulnerable. And Will Sherman, extraordinary Fletcher. Is there anything now that you feel has really changed, or have you just confirmed, really, your thinking from the first time round?
We're using the same arrows, we're using the same iron heads. What has changed is I've gone away and I've clarified that we're doing it right. So we've gone back through the records, we've gone back through the museum artifacts, and we know that they were using iron heads. We're still copying an iron head from the time period. We know that heads from Agincourt were found, one in particular was found that was definitely a bodkin, not a barbed head. So we're doing that end right. And for me, again, we were shooting at a breastplate alone last time. This time we've got a whole bunch of gaps and more mail in there. To see what these heads do to other areas is going to be really interesting.
Well, Todd, I've been waiting 3 years for this, so I'm pretty excited.
Same here. I've been thinking about it every day. It just tickles away, and today is the day. So let's shoot.
All right.
Well, Toby, this is the moment.
Okay.
Let loose, Joe.
Okay.
It was right on the breastplate.
Yeah. Great shooting, Joe. Shot one. How do you feel?
Oh, it's great to finally get to have a go of it. Square in the middle of the breastplate, definitely not going through.
No. Well, keep them rolling. Let's put a few more in,
Yep.
and then we'll go down and have a look what we got.
Perfect.
there.
Oh, I like that. That was good.
Yeah. So
Stuck
that
for a minute and then fell.
it looked to me like it went through the metal and into the padding. I felt that Aventail would be invulnerable. I'm not so sure now, actually.
Just winged off harmlessly.
It did. He was just fine.
Oh,
Now that one,
he's not fine.
That one's stuck in.
and it, well, severely wounded and out the fight. I mean, that's through his shoulder joint. So
Should we go see?
let's have a look.
Okay. So that second one actually went between his arm and his body.
So Toby, I mean, fantastic strikes in the first round. So number one was here, wasn't it?
Yep.
Pretty unmarked, tiniest little dent. Number two, under the armpit, well, lucky for him. Number three, just caught him up here.
But again, that shows you the sloping, glancing surface of the armor really
Yeah.
doing its job.
And barely a dent, barely a dent. Number four, end of battle.
Well, hang on, he got hit up here as well.
Oh,
and
yes, he
there's still a head in there.
So went through, yeah, just one layer of the mail, it skipped past the padding.
Scraped the breastplate underneath.
Yeah.
It's gone through all of that.
But again, you can see here now, you can actually see the second layer of the mail standard. So even had it gone through the breastplate,
It hit
it would
something else.
still have the mail standard beneath that.
And then number four has taken him out of
Yeah.
commission.
Yeah, and that's battle over. So straight into the shoulder joint.
You could probably survive that maybe, but you're not fighting anymore.
Possibly ever, actually.
That's quite an interesting spread of numbers to think
Yeah.
about.
1 in 4
Yeah.
takes the fellow out on that
Yeah.
first round.
But it shows you how this is good armor. It stopped 3 direct hits, but he's still hurt.
Yeah, yeah. I reckon we just leave him as he is now, pull this one, go again, see what happens.
Okay. Oof.
Yeah. In enough. Round 2. Go again,
All
Joe.
right.
Okay.
Interesting. I thought it would go through there.
Shape, 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 shape.
Strong shape. Is that blown a rivet?
It's just thinking it's just broken the arming point. Well, he's still coming at you, so
Yeah, yeah. You can pick a bird out in the hedge as well with that head.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So square on,
Yeah.
centre of the breastplate.
Yeah.
Bam. Oh! Beautiful. Right.
Thank you.
I mean, that was great, but we had some exploding arrows there.
Yeah.
Lots of them. I want to take Will up and have a look
yeah,
at this.
yeah.
Do you mind?
Of course.
Brilliant. Will, come on down. We're going to have a look at this. Interesting. We had another strike on the breastplate.
Yep, no chance of
Total
going through.
explosion.
Yep.
And this is like a wasteland of broken arrows. Tell us the arrow. I mean, you know, because wrought iron heads, which are not going through here, but we've
No.
been doing other tests ourselves.
Yeah, we've got wrought iron through flat carbon steel. So what we're seeing here is the effect of shaping a piece of armor to deflect arrows.
Yeah.
And it's working perfectly.
And then we
That
got
one
the
came
ice
in
up.
there, did it, up there?
Yeah, so it struck here, bounced
yeah,
off,
yeah.
but it's done nothing. So my big question, this is why I wanted to pull you down,
Yeah.
is your arrows are broken.
Yep.
Can you make them stronger? Why, you know,
No, we're kind of at the limit here. We're making these as big and powerful as we can to match the big bow. That's 1/2 inch of ash
yeah,
that's been just shattered. There's a point where the energy is just too much for a piece of wood.
yeah. And I guess you could make them fatter, but then they're going to be slower. And
Yeah, need a bigger bow. Yeah, we're kind of in that holy trinity of everything working together. The head
Yeah.
weight is about as heavy as we can get. The arrow weight is, the thickness is, the spine is. It's all come together for Joe to be able to shoot accurately. We're using the right arrows. Any heavy, it's not going to work.
Okay, and I've got one last question that I really wanted to touch on. There is, as we said, there is no evidence for case hardening at all
Nope.
on arrowheads, but we also suspect that they might well have done it.
Yeah,
Well, these are kind of like grazes rather than gouges.
yeah. I think case hardening would have made a much bigger impression on that area there. Yeah. And case hardening as a process isn't that difficult if you're doing it in a massive batch, as compared to forging it out of bloomery iron
Yeah,
and
yeah.
laminated layers and things.
But infuriatingly, no evidence.
No.
Should we get him to shoot again?
Before we do, we should have a talk to Augusto about what's happened here.
Yeah.
He's got some fixing to do, so have I.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you a hand with that. We'll get Toby and Augusto in. They can talk about what's going on in the articulation here,
And we'll go
because
fix
that
some
is
arrows.
interesting. And we'll go fix some arrows,
Yeah.
Joe. All right.
Well,
Wow.
we can really see armor doing its job here, can't we?
Oh,
The
absolutely.
effects are pretty dramatic. Both of these hits would be really painful, but they're not lethal.
I was not expecting the spolders to actually resist. This is less than 1.5 mil, and this is square on.
It's the shape.
Wow,
It's the-
I was not expecting this at all.
We're really seeing in all of the shots so far how the shape of the plate armor really ramps up the protection that the metal gives you. This hit to the visor is really dramatic as well. It hits right there between the ventilation holes and then skips right up, but this beautifully boxed, fortified sight has done its job and stopped that arrow, and it bounced right off.
It does. It absolutely does. I was expecting this to go through and stick, actually. The articulations are jammed. After getting compromised in the shoulders, how are you fighting with this?
There's two things going on here. The hits to the breastplate don't really matter because you know you're pretty safe in there. But your shoulders have gotten hurt, and you've had a couple of near misses
Yeah.
that have hit you straight in the face. You're still okay, but you're thinking the next one could go through my eyes. So, you know, there's really the natural reaction here is to crouch a little bit and turn the skull of your helmet forward. One of the main English sources, the Gesta Henrici Quinti, says that after the English started shooting, the French bowed their heads and crouched down because the shooting was so heavy. That's what I do, and that's what they did.
Then that's what we do next.
All right, you're gonna have to take the shoulders off and fix the dents before we keep going.
I can do that. That's going to be an easy quick fix.
I think maybe we should
Yes, absolutely.
have some quick field repairs.
Yes, that I can do.
So this time, Toby, as we know, they were worried about the arrows coming through the sights and the breaths. So they walked in as if they're walking through a storm, all hunched down. So I think, Joe, give them some hail.
Okay.
Interesting that. All the significant damage has really been here and here. The arms are hurt, but those two are both taking them out.
Oh, that was a good one.
Nice.
That breastplate is doing
Yeah.
its job.
Right over his heart, that one.
Yeah.
So, Joe, I'd really love to see his sort of left forearm, if you can whack that. And if you don't, you've got the skirt behind. So I think that's a really good
Okay.
target.
I'll give it a go.
Ah.
Yeah. Again. It's the male, isn't it? Really, it's
That
the male.
the lower torso is as we suspected a key weakness.
I mean, the male is doing
No.
very, very little.
Nothing.
And I think what we know from the male tests that we did actually
Mm-hmm.
was that even the really best quality handmade male that we can source
Yeah.
wouldn't stop that, not
Yeah.
remotely.
Yeah, what we're seeing here is some really strong motivating factors behind the evolution of plate armor in the next decade or so. But we're not quite there yet, and he's getting hurt.
What can you say?
It looks bad.
It is bad. We had another one explode on the breastplate. Actually, that's our biggest dent to date.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of the arrowhead stuck on him there. See that?
So
that
there
bit
is.
of fragment there?
It's hit on the V,
Yeah,
and part of it's gone that way, and part of it's gone that way.
yeah.
And do you remember from the other film, Arrows vs. Armour 1, how important that V was at deflecting the arrows?
It continues to be.
Yeah. I mean, it is really interesting how this mail is working. Now, we have to say here again that this is not the best of the handmade mail we could source. But we did our tests, our comparative tests, and we know from that that the kind of mail at this kind of ring size, even in the best handmade we can source, is not stopping arrows.
And you think about where these are hitting right in the region of the groin, the hips, the top of the thigh. There's major blood vessels there. He gets hit, he's gonna just bleed out real fast. What we're seeing here is an armor where the strong points are really strong,
Yeah.
and the weak points are really weak. It's a very extreme spread.
If I was walking out of the lines on that day at Agincourt and I was looking at my friends who had plate down here and I knew what English arrows could do, and I didn't have plate, I'd be really wondering what I was doing there.
Well, clearly you should be,
Yeah.
because that's a major weakness.
Yeah. What Joe was aiming for was a strike on these here, and we haven't got that yet. I think that would be a very interesting thing to see, because it's so thin, we assume, that the arrow should go straight through it. But it has form in the way that our flat plate tests, when we were doing our comparative testing, didn't have form. And it was also completely supported behind by the archery foam. It was a good test, but it's a really good setup if you want to penetrate. That is shaped, a little bit give, not so easy to penetrate, even though it's only 1 mil.
Okay, well, the instinctual move to bow your head and crouch down a bit didn't really do this particular individual much good. He still got shot straight through the shoulder, and he's had at least 3 killing blows to his lower torso. So he's pretty decisively dead and out of it. The French advance has gotten much closer to the English, and one of the effects of that is that the French knights are now passing the wings of the English line, and there are archers who now can shoot at them at much more extreme angles. So I think the next thing we should do is turn our knight 3/4 to Joe's shooting to start to simulate some of that flanking shooting.
Because of course, the sides of the helmet, the sides of the breastplate are thinner, because
Right.
you make your armor thicker at the front, thinner at the sides.
Right.
Right, let's turn him, let's shoot again.
Okay.
So Joe, our intrepid Frenchman, he's coming alongside your lines. He's walking up towards you. Better shots, better angles coming in from the side.
Okay.
Take it away.
Nice. Nice Aventail shot.
Yeah. I mean, it shows why they wear them. Good. Oh, did you hear that?
There's a really weird behavior of the arrow there too.
The sound was fabulous. Right, again, please, Joe.
Well, there's a puff of something there. Oh yeah,
Nice.
that was a good one.
Again, Aventail did its thing. That might have actually protected his shoulder a little.
Yeah, well the gaps in the shoulders, they're not as available to the archer because of the angle.
Yeah, and that's true on both sides. But actually, if you look around his elbow, the side of his breastplate to elbow now,
Right.
there is a gap opening up there.
Yeah, yeah.
So Joe, can you get right in here? Just there. Right in the crook of the elbow, on his right elbow, because there's an opening there now.
Yep.
Nice.
That was nice.
That's a good one on the side of the breastplate, but even the sides are still doing their job.
Yeah. So far, this guy's upset, but he's still walking.
Right.
Oh!
Another one in the
Nicely done.
arm.
Well, that's worthy of going to have a look at, isn't it? You coming up, Joe?
Yeah, I'll come up.
That's
Well.
cool.
Yeah.
Just pushing straight through the articulation. But that's hitting right on the overlap of
Yeah.
the plates too.
And that's what, 50 mil, 2 inches, bit more actually, going in. So you're into bone there, I think.
Yeah, that's
fair to
shattered
say.
his upper arm.
So you've gone through the steel, the mail, the padding, and you're that far in.
I'm just pleased I got one stuck in him.
But it's a good point. That is the first time that
Yeah.
the armour has properly failed.
On this one, you've seen the armor doing its job. The plate stopped the arrows a couple of times. The heavy mail on the Aventail turned 2 arrows completely with no ill effects to the man inside. So you're seeing that dynamic. The armor is working hard and turning a lot of the shots, but not all of them.
It turned that one. Lovely dent there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
So the French are trying to attack this English center. Henry V is there in his gilded armor and the royal arms of England, and he's got big French lilies on his helmet, and he's saying, I'm the rightful king of France, come and get me. So all the French are going for the center, which means they're just steaming past the archers on the flanks. And you're now going to have the ability to shoot them straight in the side.
Do you want that?
I definitely want that. Again, I'd be aiming for here and especially here where it's nice and flat. So hopefully I should be able to get an arrow to grip and really deliver a punch.
So let's turn him, go again.
Okay.
The knights now, they're walking past your lines. They're ignoring you. Take it away.
Nice.
Can you imagine that? You're just walking past. And
Really
this is just coming at you.
unpleasant, very unpleasant.
Yeah. Liking that, Joe. More of that,
Thank you.
please.
Oh, wow.
Lovely stuff. Yeah. Lovely. I'm going to run in and see if I can get a decibel reading. "90 decibels. It's not actually as loud as I thought. But the thing is, the decibel meter itself is inside under the armoured coif.
The lining of the helmet's quite thick.
Yeah. But still, I thought it would be louder, actually. Nice shot, though, Joe.
Thanks.
Ow.
Ooh, yeah. His back now,
Yep.
no back plate, completely exposed. So you've got him right there.
Kidneys.
Right.
That's what I wanted to see. So you've got 2 layers overlapping on the upper arm. There's 2 millimeters of steel there.
Yeah, turned it.
Yeah. Glance off of something.
I think the spear.
Nice.
Shot. Nice shot. Brilliant. Shall we go have a look?
Okay.
Let's go check it out. I mean, this is fantastic, Toby, because, you know, it's been quite a day and we've basically hit everything that we wanted to hit. The side of the visor, the side of the helmet.
I really wanted to see what was going to happen when you hit this double layer, 2 1 mil thick layers, and it's pierced both of them, but not done a terrible injury, I wouldn't have thought, but this one certainly is bad.
That is deep in, if it was flesh, right through, in honesty. This one actually has pierced a hole, but the tiniest of holes, and that one's done nothing in that sense, just a dent. Again, it will leave it open to the question, had that been a case-hardened one or a steel one, would the result be different? I actually suspect not.
Pretty amazing results, though.
We've got to go review those, because we've got, I think it's almost every shot on slow-mo. We're going to go and have a look at that, see what we can learn from that. So let's go set that up, and we're going to leave the boys to come and look at this and talk over it.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Wow.
okay.
Done some damage.
There
Your
is
lovely
some
armour.
damage, but I thought it would be more, actually.
Did you?
I thought so. The Aventel, I thought that would be enough, because I've seen before how they behave, but the side of the visor, I thought it would at least go through like the head.
This is really interesting because it's almost a dead-on shot.
It is.
What amazes me is the fact that the wrought iron heads have done any damage at all to it. Because in the previous test, we thought they were just kind of bouncing off and not really bothering.
Yeah,
That's a really painful shot.
it is.
That's done a lot of damage.
Yes, it
this
has.
arm's out of action already.
Yes.
And anywhere that isn't plate has gone in, hasn't it?
Yes,
In
apart
almost
from the
every instance.
Aventel, but
Yeah.
that's what it's designed for. So, I mean, for example, in here, it did penetrate 2 separate layers of steel, which is already hard by itself.
Right.
But it did jam the articulation, so you will be able to fight, but you'll start having problems. His whole right arm is almost immobilized.
And of course, we've seen one archer doing all of this damage.
Yes, over a distance of time as well. In
Yeah.
20 minutes of walking and shooting, you will start finding the gaps.
It's quite a terrifying thought, really, isn't it? So, who wins the bet? Arrowsmith or armourer?
Well, half the time the armorer wins.
And half the time the Arrowsmith wins. He's dead.
He's alive.
Do you go and look at the footage?
Absolutely, let's go for it.
Brilliant.
Let's have a look at this footage then, guys. Let's see what we got. So that's straight into the left shoulder. Case hardening, would that have gone deeper?
Maybe. It's gonna
Maybe.
hurt,
It would have bitten more.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Right
angles
on
of the visor are pretty useful.
Yeah. Ooh.
Now he's leaning down to protect his face, and he gets shot through the shoulder.
Yeah.
It's just bad
Yeah.
luck. But it's easy to focus on the ones that stick him through the shoulder or wherever. But let's remember, like there, again and again, his life is being saved more times than it's being taken. The piercings are really impressive, but they are outnumbered by the successes of the armor.
There is a real black and white. If it hits the plate or if it hits the male, the results are quite different.
Yeah.
Oh, right in the belly.
That's a bounce.
Yes.
Bounce off male.
Yeah. Who would have
That's
thought?
not bad.
Oh, that's where those two plates came together, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back in the top arm again.
Yeah, just spread the shoulder limbs.
That's a
Right
great
in the-
shot.
Right in
That's a
the
great
ear.
Square on the side of the visor. Still bounced off.
It moves
Yeah.
moves his head.
And
He
he
does,
lifted
he's-
the whole visor
The
as well.
lifted the visor. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other one in the side of the head.
Yeah.
Then straight back out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that
upper
the arm?
arm.
Upper
Yeah,
arm,
that's on the arm, upper cannon, yes.
That punched through, but it bounced out again.
And he punched through both layers.
And that was the
Wow,
glance
look at
off
that
the
one.
elbow.
Yes.
And that actually just kicked him in the back as well as it went through.
Yeah.
That's still
And I
going.
think
Yes.
that is our lot, lads. So,
Wow.
who wants to see what? Because we've got one more round of shooting.
Case hardening. We've got
Yes.
to. We've got
Yeah.
to.
Definitely case hardening.
Yeah.
We want to see it bite more into the steel of,
Yeah.
of the armor.
And Toby?
I want to see some justification for the French fear of being shot through the eyes. So far, that visor has done a great job of protecting the guy's face, but they were afraid of the visor being pierced, so I want to see more shots at the face to kind of understand that.
Okay. Well, I'm with you on both of those suggestions. So, let's do it.
All right.
So we're shooting case-hardened heads. Now, of course, we have no evidence they did it. So it's not really a historical test in a way, but
Yeah, but if they coulda, they woulda, and they could.
let's go for it, Joe.
Okay.
We're going to have that head left over, but lovely shot. I forgot to say that there.
Thank you.
Nice Aventail shot.
Yeah, I think so, but it sounded like it hit plate actually. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if it went through the Aventail and touched on the plate. Don't know.
It's sort of a dull thunk.
Again.
That was Aventail and
Yeah.
breastplate, huh?
Oh. Nice.
But it stopped it again.
It did. We put him on a fairly loose stand. He's got wheels underneath. The head's on armature wire, so the arms. You know, there's movement allowed in it, which, like a body.
It makes it weirdly lifelike too, though.
You know, when he got smacked in the head with the
Yeah.
arrow on the slow-mo shot, you feel it.
You do. Oh,
Ah, right. That is interesting.
that went through. It didn't hit. It didn't hurt him, but there's a hole.
Yeah. This breastplate, they're going to be ones that aren't as good as that. You know, it was a nicely made plate,
And there are ones that are better.
and there are ones that are
But
better.
that's the first time all day it's got a hole in it.
Yeah.
And it's been hit a lot.
Last one.
Last one. Oh, again.
Aiming for the same hole there.
Yeah. Joe,
Maybe.
so let's go and have a look, see what we got. That is just brilliant. Well done, guys. I think, Joe, you've got to come up for this one. Wow. So that's the one that really went through. And actually, look at the thickness of the metal there. I mean, it'd be interesting to measure it, but that's pretty substantial. If you go and have a peer at the hole,
Yeah.
another nice bite there.
Yeah.
And then there's this one
Ah,
that's gone through the skull. almost,
yeah.
huh?
So that again, I mean, it's not pierced in the sense of gone through and hurt the guy inside, but it's made a hole.
And that one, look at that one.
There's a
Deep
piece of
gouge
the tip
there.
in there
Oh, yeah.
See, that,
for me.
this
Yes.
is super significant because that is normally from today, that would have just been a glancing shot.
Yes.
It still glanced, but look at that bite.
You're right. The glancing shot that it would have otherwise been is now a biting shot. But there is a vast difference here.
Yep.
You don't need scientific equipment to see that these are making a difference. This is something that's easily perceptible with your regular senses.
Yeah.
Medieval people have no problem understanding the effect that that's having.
This is a case-hardened one which must have struck somewhere. Feel the point on that.
It's still really sharp.
And,
There's no blunting at all.
well, I think Will's question, our question of, does case hardening really improve the penetration? I think that's absolutely been answered. And it's been answered in slightly clever ways as well, because it improves the bite, not just the straight presentation, the ability of the arrow to actually catch a bit of metal and push on through. If only we had evidence that they did it. So I think we've got to keep on hunting that. But what we want to do now is come back and see if the knights really should have been scared about the breaths and the sights of their helmets. So Joe, it's a small target, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Right about here, please. Should we go do it?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Thanks, guys. So Joe, big bundle of arrows, one knight asking for it. We ask, you deliver.
Oh, right in the mush.
Yeah, right on the snout there. Lovely.
Oh,
Nice.
It's in a good throat shot.
that's stuck.
Yeah,
It's just stuck in there.
it is. But again, it's padding at that point, isn't it? There's no plate behind.
Yeah.
So that might well have been enough to give him quite a smack on your windpipe, and that is delicate.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to hurt.
That's here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It depends how much give it has the liner and how stiff it's closed, yes.
We can't know.
No,
but
we can't.
It doesn't look great if you're
No,
on
I
the
wouldn't
inside
want
of
it.
it.
So close.
He would have seen that coming, wouldn't he?
So close.
Nice.
I haven't helped.
Lovely. And that's through again. That looks like it's through.
The guy inside is fine, but the avental has been pierced.
Yeah. But he now
Yeah.
knows.
Yes, that it
there
goes
is a
through.
danger.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Because we've assumed that that's pretty safe up to now.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's the same hole.
Very nice. Very nice.
Joe, really.
That was right between the eyes.
That is extraordinary shooting, Joe. Oh my goodness. Again.
That's a good one to finish on.
And that is the end of the shooting. Goodness.
Thank you.
Incredible.
That was incredible.
Thank you.
That was incredible. Well, let's go have a look at it. Goodness. Oh, fabulous. Carnage.
That's the first thing I want to talk about. Look at that hole
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
With an unhardened head, that's done some damage, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thinnest part of the visor. Probably is like 1.2, 1.3. Absolutely.
Not only is it a big hole into the helmet, it has steel behind it.
Yep.
Had that been 15 millimeters over,
That's in the face, isn't it?
There's
That is
void
in-
there.
That
Yeah.
is in the face.
Yeah. Right into the eye socket.
It is.
But that one got stopped. I mean, he hasn't actually been killed by any
No.
of this, scary and dramatic though it is.
For me, that hole alone says that they had reason to be worried,
Yep.
at least from the side. But then we look at everything else that has occurred, and Joe's shooting, we all have to admit, was extraordinary. And I don't know how many landed on the face here, but a significant number. And not one, other than that, has indicated anything about wanting to go through, not remotely.
No. These are more interesting, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if he was turned a little bit more towards Joe, these are going through into dangerous areas, aren't they?
That goes right in.
Yeah.
And that's, we don't know, but it's around his throat here, and that is a really delicate area to, you know, to get punched.
That's gone all the way through the Aventail
Yeah.
and out the other side. In
So
fact, I can see the head from the other one as well. There it is.
Right. So it has pierced
Yep.
the Aventail. And that's the first arrow that's done that.
And gone
It
back
is,
into
it
the
is,
lining.
yeah.
And not only that, it's pierced it at an angle, so it's gone through more of the material. It's gone through the same amount of mail,
Yeah.
but it's gone through more of the padding behind
It
than a
has.
straight hit would have done.
It has. Oh yes. It has.
We really didn't think this Aventail would be pierced. When you have it in your hands, it seems so thick and
Yeah.
dense and heavy.
Yeah.
Most shots not, but that's armour, isn't it? Mostly
It
it
is.
keeps you safe.
Yeah.
Not always.
Right.
If it is only one faulty rivet, one faulty ring, then you are dead.
So guys, we've got to come to some sort of a conclusion about, well, what has been a fantastic day. We can conclude that Joe is a fantastic shooter. But seriously though, we have actually got to come to a decision here. So, you know, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, what are your final thoughts on this today?
I'm amazed how well the wrought iron is performing. We didn't think it would do anything near as much damage as it is today.
Augusto, how do you feel about it?
I am amazed on how well the thinner armor fared against the arrows, just thanks to their shapes and the tight curves.
And Joe?
Firstly, I love shooting at the full armour here. And secondly, just that the arrows went through the Aventail. Holding it earlier, it was so thick and heavy.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. And Toby?
The plate armor really did its job. The serious injuries occurred when we hit the weak points that we knew were weak points, and that they knew were weak points, and that they were rapidly dealing with in the technology of the time. But the plate armor is doing its job.
Yeah. Now, I think that's evidently the case as well. There is one that could have been,
But it didn't.
but didn't.
It didn't.
And so that takes me to the last one, which is my one, which is case hardening. And it's infuriating because after looking at this, I swear they must have done it, but there is no evidence. And all you curators out there, go digging through your collections, find us some evidence. But really, that's it. So, I mean, it's just been a fantastic day. So thank you all for the efforts. And it has been a massive and a monumental effort to put this together. And also I'd like to say thank you to all of the crew who've worked over the last few days to make this thing happen. And indeed the craftspeople who've worked on this who aren't here today. And the backers out there who allowed us to do this.
And thank you to our French knight for putting up with us.
Never complained, did he? Now this is in fact the first of several films that are coming. This is the big one, but there's lots of supplemental ones where we dive into little particular areas. Go check them out too. Thank you.